Hey everyone, I'm Brad and this is Watch Rate Heart, and it's Friday, which means it's time for the watch list, where I discuss the movies I've watched and my feelings about them. And if this calendar on my phone is correct, today would be October 31st when this releases, which means this is Halloween. That's right, it's the time of year where young kids go trick-or-treating and adults dress up in strange clothes because they can't do that any time of the year anyway. Oh, and scary stuff happens and such. I don't know. I don't like Halloween. I don't know why. I just never have. I'm just that type of person. Anyway, I have chosen 4 films that are set in Halloween or have key scenes that are set in Halloween. And with that, let's begin to close out the spooky season with this first film. And that first movie is the sequel to the beloved horror comedy that I watched 2 years ago and really liked from Tim Burton, and that is Beetlejuice, starring Winona Ryder, Jenna Ortega, and Michael Keaton. The Letterboxd score of 3.2 out of 5, a Rotten Tomatoes of 75% fresh, and it did not win or get nominated for any Oscars. But let's just start with this, okay? If you like the first movie, I think you'll find a way to like this movie. The old cast and characters are good. All the callbacks, the jokes from the old movie are still good. Locations are still good. So if you're looking at anything reminding you of the original or that calls back to the original, that stuff's good. And that really doesn't surprise me because of how funny and good that the first film was. The problem is anything new, whether it's the characters or new locations or anything that was not a part of the first movie, does not work. Let me tell you, when I first heard the joke Soul Train in this movie, I rolled my eyes so hard. It was so stupid and not funny in the slightest. The other problem is that there's too many running plot lines as well. There's God, I can name 5 or 6 right now off the top of my head and probably not get all of them. The problem with those plot lines are twofold. One, they're not really fleshed out very well. And 2, none of them end really that satisfyingly. So it really feels like there's all these plot lines that are happening throughout the film, and none of them really feel all that great. It makes the film feel pretty messy by the end of the film. But if you're a fan of the original, I would have to say that you'll enjoy it for what it is, but I don't think it's really that necessary of a sequel. And for that, I'm going to give Beetlejuice 2 stars out of 5. Like I said, anything to do with the first film works. It still works, is funny, and is enjoyable. But if there's anything new in this film that was not in the first film, it does not work at all. Characters, locations, jokes, if it's not in the first film, it does not work in the second film. I will say this though, hot goth MILF Winona Ryder, damn, I would have never guessed. I'm not into goth chicks. I know that's strange, but when I saw her, I was like, well, actually, she's kind of hot. I would have never guessed. I mean, Winona Ryder is a very attractive woman. Anyway, 2 stars out of 5 for me for Beetlejuice. All right, and in every episode, I not only give you my opinion on films, I also give you the opinions of the people in the Letterboxd community. Let's start with Matt Lynch. Matt Lynch gives it 2 stars out of 5, and Matt says, borderline watchable, making it Burton's best movie in almost 30 years by default. Ouch, dude, really? I kind of feel like he had one good one in the past 30 years, or 25 years or so, but I can't come up with it right away. This next review is from Cinema Void. Cinema Void gives it 3 stars out of 5, and Cinema Void says, a macabre mishap opens a portal to spectral realms, unleashing an overwhelming vortex of subplots and a mischievous bio-exorcist. Those subplots, man, God, there are so many, and none of them feel all that good. I think that's my biggest problem with the film. If they would have cut 3/4 of the plot and just made it about the original characters and fleshed out Lydia's daughter and made a plot around that, I think they could have had something, but they just went too far and had too much to put in there. This next review is from Robert. Robert gives it 3 stars out of 5 with a heart, and Robert says, I was pretty damned entertained. Michael Keaton was fantastic, and I love how they avoided the Jeffrey Jones of it all. A couple of really funny moments. Yes, that is right. They tried so hard not to have Jeffrey Jones' face at all in this film. Anything regarding his character, you do not see the actor, period. In fact, when they discuss how he died in the film, they used claymation in order to do it, which I thought was And when I saw that, I was like, that just feels unnecessary. But then it's kind of the running joke of the film. So I kind of did enjoy that. And if you don't know why Jeffrey Jones is not in the film, look up what happened to him and what he did in 2002, and you'll understand why. And this last review is from Slick Cinema Nick. Slick Cinema Nick gives it 3 stars out of 5. And he says, Beetlejuice is a fun watch that doesn't overstay its welcome. Obviously not better than the original, but there were a lot of nice callbacks to the first. Don't take it too seriously, and it's a very enjoyable and entertaining viewing experience for sure. You know, there are parts of it I did like. But again, it's the original stuff is what I liked about them, which is what Nick is saying here. Callbacks to the film. That's what works. But I really feel the amount of plot lines and the new characters just weigh this film down to a point for me to just not be able to recommend it. But like I said in the review as well, if you do love the first movie and you haven't seen it, I'd still say give it a shot. Otherwise, I would say avoid this, just watch the first one if you are interested in the concept. Next is a film I'm watching for the first time that, yes, I know, everyone in the known fucking world has watched numerous times already, and that's Steven Spielberg's E.T. the Extraterrestrial, starring Henry Thomas and Drew Barrymore. It has a Letterboxd score of 3.8 out of 5, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 99% fresh, and it was nominated for 9 Oscars. It won 4, and those 4 were Best Sound, Best Visual Effects, Best Sound Effects Editing, and Best Score. And man, I know everyone already knows this, so just give me time to just process this myself. This story has no business being as great as it is. Think about it for a second. I know this is the movie that basically started the family-friendly sci-fi films. It really made family-friendly films much more popular from the 80s onward. But really, this film should not be as good as it is. The one thing it really shows to me is it shows what a talented director can really make out of any story. Now, really, what's the story? Kid meets alien, they go on an adventure. Like, that's it. That's all the movie is, really, if you really think about it. But there's so much more to it, and a lot of it has to do with the direction in which Spielberg directs the movie, the amazing score by John Williams. That score is really, really good. It is magnificent. And the story itself, it is sweet in its simplicity, and it's charming in its totality. It is such a really well-made movie. I just find it stunning that the first time I watched this film was at 42, and I feel like I am feeling magic from the movies again for the first time in a long time. If you've watched any of my YouTube videos, you know that I scrutinize films to a great detail. And I can't really find much fault in this film at all. I think E.T. is fucking adorable in this film. He sounds like a cross between like a cat and a human baby, and that should sound creepy, but it's adorable. I don't know how they did it. It's so great. I think it has to do with how E.T. himself looks as well. I think the way that Spielberg actually directs the film is really good. He has this way of making the film feel like it's about childhood. It's like the adults are kind of faceless. There's this power structure there that kids are just dealing with that, and then there's these all-knowing people that are around them, but they have no discernible features at all. Like, really, think about it. If you watch the film, like, the adults really are faceless until about the third act. But really, this film is about how people who really know how to create movies take such a simple story and make it into something extraordinary. It makes something thoughtful out of something silly, something moving out of something so juvenile. Really, the film, to me, is about a young boy who is trying to cope with the fact that his father's not there anymore, and he is now thrust into being an adult much faster than he ever anticipated, and finding himself the means that he can be a protector, even though he is not an adult. It's actually incredibly moving in that way. I was really surprised by how moved I was with this film. And the final scene, oh my god, the final scene of this film is, it brought a tear to my eye. Oh my god. There is really only one rating I can give E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and that is 4.5 stars out of 5. Yes, I am still abiding by my first watch will never get a 5-star rating, but really, this is an amazing film. Just everything from the direction to the performances, but especially Henry Thomas. Henry Thomas does a really good job in this film. The way that E.T. is designed, the emotionality of the film. Again, I'm a person that likes to nitpick at movies and point out certain things that don't work, and I probably could do that with this film, but I'm just not going to. Because this film is a reminder of why we love movies and why movies are so magical. Because even me, at the age of 42, can still believe in magic one more time. And that is by watching this film. What a wonderful picture. I loved E.T. And let's get into the Letterboxd reviews. This first one is from Lucy. Lucy gives it 4 stars out of 5. And she says, that terrestrial sure was extra. Actually, she's kind of got a point, if I'm really thinking about this. Like, if you think about aliens in other movies, they're really not that expressive. But the actual character of E.T. is actually very expressive. And for an 82 movie with that kind of puppetry, it was actually really good. This next review is from Joseph. Joseph gives it 5 stars out of 5 with a heart. And Joseph says, the last time I watched E.T. on the big screen was back in 2017, and the ending of this movie still sheds a tear to my eye. And it did the same thing for me, too. I was so surprised by how moved I was at the end of this film. Let's get into this third review. This one's a little more measured. This is Greg's 1999. Greg gives it 3 stars out of 5, and he says, can't wait to be ostracized from society for not loving the shit out of this film. Man, I feel you. There are so many films that people love, Titanic being one of them, for example, that I just look at and go, huh? Okay, whatever. But anyway, this didn't do a whole lot for me. Effects were cool, performances were decent, and the story was lighthearted with enough heavy moments. Incredible John Williams score, though. The John Williams score is amazing in this film. It almost feels like it belongs in a different film, but it still fits in a very weird way. Like, it's actually really epic in a way that I was not expecting. And this final review is from Professor Dorkman. Ooh, Professor Dorkman. He gives it 3 stars out of 5. And the professor says, Steven Spielberg was driven to bring Melissa Matheson's charming script to life because he understood the need for an outsider companion during his parents' divorce. Spielberg has an uncanny way of conveying a child's emotions on screen like no one else. The issue with this film, the older I have gotten, the less significance I find in it. The charm in the filmmaking fun is still alive and well, but the connection to childhood characters is lost on a 42-year-old. I think I highlighted this film because, as a 42-year-old myself, I didn't exactly have a connection really to the childhood characters, but I definitely felt what it was trying to do, and I was moved by that specific thing. The connection I felt in the film is about Elliot having to grow up really fast, with his father not being there, and being this protector of this alien who is kind of like a kid, but, isn't. And that's where I kind of got the big connection of the film and how it really felt on me on that one. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. I know I'm about 40 years late. What an amazing movie. Beautiful movie. It's shot real well. It has this real emotional core to it. And E.T. is just adorable in this film as well. It's, again, one of those films where I wish I watched it sooner, but now that I have watched it, I'm so glad I did. What a wonderful picture. I loved it.
We can certainly handle 20 men. I should hope. Can you handle 10? Well, 7 or 8.
Next is the film that... Alright, hold on. Before I get comments in the comments section, yes, this counts. There are key scenes set in Halloween. And that is the film Meet Me in St. Louis, starring Judy Garland and Margaret O'Brien, directed by Vincent Minnelli. It has a Letterboxd score of 3.8 out of 5, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 99% fresh. This was nominated for 4 Oscars, and that is Best Screenplay, Cinematography, Score, and Original Song. And it won 1 Oscar for Best Juvenile Actor, and that is for Margaret O'Brien. I think that may be the only time they've ever had a Juvenile Actor Award. I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that. Now, look, this is a good movie. I enjoyed it. There's some pleasant song and dance numbers. I especially like the visuals in the film. I especially like the interiors and the costumes, especially the costumes. My God. Even the suits the guys wear in this film are really striking looking and are just very pleasant to look at. And of course, Judy Garland is as charming as she always is. She does good song and dance numbers. Overall, she's very charming. And I really like the actress who plays Tootie in this, who is Margaret O'Brien. I think her character and her as well are really good. I love every scene she's in. I really like how strangely macabre she is, even though she is really adorable. And I think O'Brien plays that character really well. Just very charismatic, very charming, but really as sweet and as pleasant as the film is. And it is a fine film. I do enjoy it. But there's really nothing more to it than that. It's just a fun, charming, good time with some good song and dance numbers, and that is about it. These are the hardest movies for me to review sometimes, because they do everything right, but I don't think it's anything all that amazing. It's not anything that I would find notable. It's just, yeah, that was a good time. I'd watch it again, absolutely. I think it's a fine enough movie as it is, but it's not something that I'm wowed by. It's like, yeah, for that time period, this is pretty good. Or I'd be like, yeah, that was a fun movie. I enjoyed that. And that's it. I enjoy it as I watch it. I will likely forget about it once I'm done. And that is it. Which means that I'm going to give Meet Me in St. Louis 3 stars out of 5. It's a fine movie. I enjoyed it. I like the song and dance numbers. In fact, I liked everything about the movie. It's just that there's not really anything in the film where I would sit there and go, wow, that's great. It's good. It's an enjoyable film. It's a good movie. I did enjoy it, but it's just not something where I would sit there and like really overanalyze it. It's something where if someone put it on, I'd be like, yeah, I'll watch it again. This was a fun movie. And that's about it. And there's nothing wrong with that, really. It's just not something that I guess really captured me in a sort of way. So, 3 stars out of 5 for me for Meet Me in St. Louis. So let's get into the reviews from Letterboxd. This is from Nora. Nora gives it 3 stars out of 5 with a heart. And Nora says, relate a lot to the morbid 5-year-old who fantasizes about giving her dolls beautiful funerals. Also, Judy, I weep. I love Tootie in this film so much. That's who she's talking about, is Tootie, who's played by Margaret O'Brien. She is so funny and yet so charming in this film. I love Tootie. Let's get into the second review. This one is from Raphael, Mr. Movie Hovine. Mr. Movie gives it 3 stars out of 5 with a heart, and he says, the whole production design is amazing. I agree. The photography is beautiful. Yes. Technicolor textures is so great, and some of the songs are really catchy. The songs are fine. I like the songs. They're just not, they didn't really hit me all in that way. Also, it was a nice and touching love letter to St. Louis. That being said, the story was filled with so many cliches, it was hard to ignore. That is actually very true, something I did not point out in the review. Some of the storylines were insane. What's up with those two little sociopaths? Yeah, the younger sisters. I think it's Agnes and Tootie. They are pretty much sociopaths. And everyone's like, oh, Tootie. And also not a big lover of musicals, and in some way, this kind of reinforced that dislike in a very small dose. Yeah, if you don't like musicals, this is really not something you'd enjoy, but I do agree with Mr. Movie on a lot of his points, especially with how beautiful the design is in the film. The visuals are really good in this film. It is very cliched, I'd have to agree, and that might be why I'm just kind of watching it and going, it's fine, but it's not something I go crazy over. This next review is from My Wheelhouse. My Wheelhouse gives it 4 stars out of 5 with a heart, and My Wheelhouse says is that this works so well because the musical aspects are interwoven seamlessly throughout. Also, Judy Garland looks great in it. The story is nice. It's just a great Christmas classic to watch. You know, I think he's right on that one. I think this would have been better as a Christmas movie than anything else, but I chose it for Halloween, so that's just the way it's gonna be. This last review is from Anika. Anika gives it 4 stars out of 5. And Anika just asked one question. What even was Halloween back then? And I was thinking the same thing too. It was like, so wait a minute. They burn a bunch of wooden chairs and planks and stuff, and then they just terrorize people? What is this? That's what I was curious about, but yeah, there's really not much to say about Meet Me in St. Louis. It's a fine film. I enjoyed it. Some of the musical numbers are great. The trolley song's good, I will say that. And the film looks really good. But really, the only thing I can look at it is, it's fun. It's a fun time, but nothing more, really. I know some people disagree, but yeah, that's just my opinion on that. And now is a great time to watch what is considered one of the best horror films ever made, Halloween, starring Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis, directed by John Carpenter. Has a Letterboxd score of 3.8 out of 5, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 97% fresh, and did not win or get nominated for any Oscars. Okay, so guys, let me just note this. If you're a fan of this movie, you're not going to like my review, but I just want to give everyone a heads up. I am not a horror fan. I have never been a horror film fan. If you want to just skip this review and be like, all right, whatever, I don't want to listen to you, fine, I completely understand. That being said, I found the first half of this film so incredibly boring. It didn't feel like anything interesting was happening throughout that first half. It was building up to something, I get that, and it was building up to what eventually Michael Myers would do towards the second half of the film. Even though I like slow burn films, I just think the first half was just utterly boring and uninteresting. And slow burn works when the end of the film is the payoff, and it's really good. good, but for me, it just did not work at all. Also, the logic in a lot of these characters is incredibly dumb. I really have to ask a question for all of you who are fans of this and are still listening, and if you are, thank you, and thank you for not putting too many hate comments on this. Is part of the fun just how these characters are like? Is part of the fun watching these people struggle to do basic things and then get killed? Is that part of what makes these enjoyable for you? Or just how silly the tropes are? Let me know in the comments so I can understand at least. And I think the one thing that just really stuck to me at the end was I didn't find this scary in the least. I didn't even find it funny at all. I just found it boring and annoying at times. And when the kills finally started to happen, I just was like, oh, that's it? Okay. Right, whatever. I guess for positives, I will say that Pleasance and Curtis are fine in the film. I think Curtis does well with what she has to do in the film. Honestly, for a film that was made so cheaply, it does look pretty good. I will give it that. Especially at night, I think the film does look good, especially when it deals with shadows and darkness in those scenes. So I will give Halloween that. All right, so I gave you my warning. I am not a horror fan, so don't freak out too much when you see this rating. I am giving Halloween 1.5 out of 5 stars. I just found the film utterly boring and uninteresting. I think the characters were just so incredibly dumb to the point where they were annoying. And I didn't find all the scares to be all that scary. Like, I know this is a classic. I know this is a building block to what later horror films would become, but I just found it utterly uninteresting. I think some of the performances are good. I actually like the music okay, except when they keep repeating the same stings, which gets a little annoying. So overall, 1.5 stars out of 5 for me for Halloween. All right, let's get into our final Letterboxd reviews. This first review is from Axel Slywa. Axel gives it 4.5 out of 5 stars with a heart, and Axel just asks, I still don't get how this is rated R. Yeah, I kind of have to agree, actually. I don't understand it either. Well, it might just be different standards for that time, really, because there's really no blood in the film. I mean, you see blood when Laurie gets slashed at the end of the film, but there really isn't anything that's too gratuitous or disgusting or bloody. This next review is from Josh Barton. Josh Barton gives it 5 stars out of 5 with a heart, and he says, a masterclass of setting your film up for an unforgettable finale. Halloween is a bona fide horror classic that won't be surpassed in the franchise, so not sure why they even bothered to keep making them. Michael Myers instantly becomes an icon of the genre, along with Jamie Lee Curtis with her Scream Queen status. Adore this film. This one's a little more middle ground. This one is from Sarah. Sarah gives it 3.5 stars out of 5 with a heart, and she just says, theme park movie. And I kind of agree. At least the second half feels like a theme park ride to a certain extent, but I definitely see where Sarah is coming from there. Now, this last review is from Kate. Kate gave it 2 stars, but I am pointing out this review because I find it so funny, and I'm not making fun of you, Kate, but I just found it just hilarious. So Kate says, I'm about to tell you something so incredibly dumb that you will not believe it. I swear it's true, and you should all be thankful I'm exploiting my stupidness in exchange for likes on Letterboxd. Good for you, Kate. See, I always thought the villain in Halloween didn't have a name, and the reason people referred to him as Michael Myers was because the villain was played by the actor Mike Myers. I have only now realized that this is not the case, and I'm absolutely disgusted. My rating would be higher if Mike Austin Powers Myers was allowed to play the serial killer Michael Myers. And you know what, Kate? I would also give it more stars if it was Michael Myers playing this character. Not just Michael Myers, but Michael Myers as Austin Powers, saying, yeah, baby, yeah, as he's stabbing teens in the chest. I think I would have enjoyed it so much more. Like I said, I'm not a horror fan, and this is a horror classic. So I thought if I would give this a shot and maybe like it, I would maybe expand my choices of films a little bit more in the horror genre. But maybe I just don't like slasher films, and maybe that's the reason why I did not enjoy Halloween. And that is it for this episode of Watch Rate Heart. But before I go, I have a request. It's unusual, but let me have this request for you. Can I get recommendations for Halloween-coded films that aren't gross or disturbing? I'm really trying to push myself when it comes to watching horror films, but the problem I always have are watching films that are gratuitously gory, bloody, or just deal with really disturbing subjects. So if you can give me some recommendations in the comments, I would greatly appreciate it. I know this is vague, but I know that horror is a blind spot I have, and I want to watch more of it, but there are just certain types of movies I will not watch. If you liked any of the reviewers I highlighted in this episode, you can check the video description for a link to their Letterboxd profile. And be sure to give them a follow and let them know that Brad from Watch Rate Heart sent you. You can follow me at Letterboxd and X at Watch Rate Heart. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it and share with your friends. I'm Brad from Watch Rate Heart. Thank you for watching, and remember, we all watch and rate movies, but you give them the heart that makes them live forever.